What is going on YouTube? This is Acid Roots. So I'm going to review the fourth album by Killer Mike. Basically this product is called Pl3dge and it came out in the spring of 2011. So the thing about this particular product is just the fact that Killer Mike, after a couple albums, this particular album Pl3dge and then rap music from 2012, he took a sizable break from rap music apart from like the Run the Jewels albums as far as those pitches can happen. But he was getting like a pretty good string of albums just within that particular fare. This single up, the lead single off this product, which is Ready Set Go, is actually a pretty sizable smash, not in terms of like chart appeal, but it definitely had like some good this overall single composition, pitches like that. It felt like a good buzz single that you would have caught from like just a typical kind of generic southern rap artist. Not to say generic in terms of quality, but just generic, like something you would have expected out of like probably like Bun B or Pimp C, some of those type of folks circa 2010, despite the fact that Pimp C wasn't alive in 2010. But it's something that felt like UGK or, you know, like Young Jock, one of those type of folks would have done out of Atlanta, some of those type of fairs. It's pretty good radio appeal within that. Definitely one of the more commercial songs that Killer Mike has in terms of like his more casual type of appeal. But just the concept about this particular album is just the fact it's very tough to track down. I was looking around places for it. It's not on iTunes. It's a little bit trickier to get. It's a little bit more expensive on like Amazon and eBay, some of those type of places, which is interesting. I kind of question why this particular album is just not available within its entirety. Even on YouTube, it's difficult to find every single song off this particular product. Now, I was able to find them. These songs are available on YouTube within a certain playlist, but it's just within the concept in terms of like the format. Like even Killer Mike himself does not really display this album according to his actual YouTube page, which I don't know why that kind of particularly is. It's strange about this. It's kind of within the appeal. This album is worth the purchase. Definitely, I'd say it's just another hit album for Killer Mike. Now, I did give Pledge Allegiance to the Grind 2 a 10 out of 10. I want to say I gave Killer, the mixtape from 2006, a pretty high score. That was a pretty nice one. And I gave Monster from 2003 a 10 out of 10. This album's not going to get a 10 out of 10. It has a few snags, has a few drab and snag type songs on here within those pitches, but it is relatively excellent. For the most part, like out of the 13 songs on here, there's 15 songs. There's 15 songs in this album, but one of which is the Ready Set Go remix, which is the same variation as the song as like the original. This has Big Boy from Outkast on there, which is a pretty good pitch. That would narrow it down to 14 songs, and one of which is just the American Dream Prelude, which is just kind of a skit, so that narrows it down to 13. So out of the 13, I wound up recommending 10. That's kind of a persnickety type score just because I would look after it, and I would say that 12 out of 13 would be a 10 out of 10, 11 out of 13 would be like a 9.5, but like a 10 out of 13 would probably be like an 8.75. So that's what I'm going to give this album. It's like an 8.75 out of 10, just within the pitch behind it. I mean, it has some pretty high grade appeal. Most of this is pretty whoppingly good within the appeal. There's a couple snags like this album just not being as readily available, at least not for relatively cheap. And then on top of that, just the pitch. As far as saying like if I were to recommend 7 out of 13 songs, that would be, you know, half the album. That would be like a 6 out of 10. So going from like 7 out of 13 just with 3 more songs, it'd be kind of strange to go from like, you know, a 6 out of 10 to like a 9.5 out of 10 just with 3 extra songs that are quality. So it's just within the pitch as far as saying. So it's 8.75 just in the appeal. I mean, 10 out of 13 is a good look within the appeal behind it, but still. So I mean that there's, you know, probably would just need like maybe 1.5, you know, one song at least, one more hit to kind of say full behind it, just being like a virtual classic. But within the appeal, it's really whoppingly excellent. So you know, the unfortunate thing about this album is just the fact that Wikipedia doesn't know terribly much about it. I mean, at least knew that the lead single was Ready Set Go, which came out in late 2010. But Killer Mike actually did drop 3 other music videos with this particular album. I was looking around for it. Like I said, the promotion of this album's pretty scattershot. The information of it's just kind of here and there. It's not as full bound within the info as far as like the conduct behind it. So I just would have to say the 4 singles, or at least the 4 songs that had music videos for them, were Ready Set Go, Go Out on the Town, Ric Flair, and Burn, just within those pitches. So I'm just going to talk about those as if those 4 are the singles. So basically Ready Set Go with T.I. is a nice one. It's like a tribal and exotic kind of night venue poundage kind of get here. Just a great radio snap and single package, I'd have to say, for Killer Mike as far as those pitches can happen. It really has some affability. This really just feels like something like if T.I. were to do this song, this would probably be like a good buzz or promo type song that just would have some good pitches around that particular time. So it has some good buzz type appeal within the pitch behind it. This really feels like something that, you know, 2 Chainz, Play a Circle would have done just within that pitch. It's a good buzz hopper just in the pitch behind. But for Killer Mike, it works pretty well as like a good banner type single, just because of the concept that he didn't. I mean, he would at least get like the occasional single like Get 'Em Shawty was a pretty good poppin' type single that dropped in like the mid 2000s. Two Sides with Shawty Low was a nice one back in 2008. But for the most part, he just was always kind of in more kind of hardcore rap kind of rap only charts kind of territory, but it's just the concept that his singles were starting to get more melded just within pitch behind. So this is a good example one. This just feels like something you would hear on just like a quality Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, just an easy kind of club hop type song, and this sounds relevant to like the times like the early 2010s just within the pitch behind. So this is a very good look for Killer Mike, real affle type one, just all net with this particular one as far as those pitches can happen. Now a good follow up to that would be Go Out on the Town. This has Jeezy on there. It's like a throwback kind of Roscoe Dash like kind of City Flash kind of get here. Just a nice buzz single. I would definitely feel like hearing just a glittery kind of step out. I'd have to say a great song to get crunk to just in the pitch. So if you're just kind of city weaving throughout the times, just you and some pals, just pitches like that, grabbing some drinks, bar hopping, pub crawl, some of that type of appeal, just that glissy kind of night pizzazz. This one's a little bit more glissy compared to Ready Set Go, where I feel like Ready Set Go is just more amongst like the dance type craze, just real shake your ass for just within a dance club, just chicas twerking pitches like that. I had to say within the tone, but this one's a little bit more pizzazz of disc, kind of a little bit more glissiness just within the tone behind, just more flossed out type step ins for those pitches can happen. These are just these songs are like some nice strengthy steppers for Killer Mike just in the appeal. So this feels like this could probably be his biggest album in terms of like casual wise. This is probably like his biggest almost crossover, where his 2003 album had some good looks, but didn't quite have the heaviness factor of it. And then I would also say that Pledge Allegiance to the Grind too was kind of the same aspect. I haven't listened to his 2006 double album yet, but just in the pitch, it just felt like he just not necessarily was cumbersome with it, but just kind of the concept of it just did not wield typically like a casual smash like you would expect from like Outkast with Way You Move or Hey Ya, some of those type of ones, or just like with Ludacris with Area Codes or some hits like that that would be top 15, top 25, top 35 type singles. But these are some good looks. I definitely recommend this. This is probably like, at least to what I've seen from Killer Mike, probably his most casual album. It's pretty good fare. Ric Flair is another single here that has a pretty good pitch. It's like a big city kind of step out, similar to like 2010 Kanye. I'd have to say here, just reminds me of some of that artsy kind of appeal. Just from the aspect behind it, just a decent sports game pizzazz kind of get about this one. Just a definite TGI song. It's like a definite TGIF kind of social flair just within the conduct behind it. I just would look after it. This feels like a song that Jay-Z would also do, just within the sense, something like The Devil Is a Lie that he did with Rick Ross, one of those type ones. Just a big city kind of pseudo DJ drama like, just one of those mixtape type tunes with a little bit of Blueprint vibes in there, just with like some good Kanye West kind of like his 2010 album, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy type step out just in the pitch, something like All of the Lights, one of those type ones just within the appeal behind this, Bright City Lights just within that pizzazz. So this one's not quite as dance ready as like the first two singles, as much as Ready Set Go and Go Out on the Town, but it does have like some good city pizzazz. It just city hopping with your pals, good appeal for that. And then Burn is a nice one. So this is a nice appeal. It's like a throwback kind of saloon hopping, kind of day drinking tune in like a 90s sense. I'd have to say here, it just reminds me of like Ice Cube and Digital Underground, some of those type folks from like 1991. Some of that particular type of appeal. This reminds me of like particular song. Just reminds of like golden era hip hop, just within the tone behind it, just in a more recent era type fare. Just not quite as boom bap, but just the same aspect of some of those type tunes from 91, 92. Just some nice indoor kind of get some grub type of appeal as far as those pitches can happen. Just place where you could get like a mug of beer and also like some wings, some of that type of fare. Just great wing stop type places, some of those type pizzazz. Just great sports bar type appeals or saloons if they're still around just within the pitch behind us. So it's good type aspects just within that. It's good type tone. I do like the social pizzazz about this particular product, because when you think of Killer Mike, just the concept, he typically can get on some of these type of songs, but just kind of, like I've said before, it just feels like the concept that he just did not typically wield like the most casual aspects. So this is a good concept of maybe not so much pushing him to like the forefront, being like primary, like when you think of Gucci Mane or Waka Flocka or Jeezy or some of those type of folks, or like Jay-Z or folks like that, Meek Mill, some of those type of folks, but definitely within the aspect as far as saying it at least pushes him to like more of like a secondary type fold, not necessarily the primary. So it pushes him not so much in like primary color type territory like red, blue, yellow, some of those type ones, but more secondary type color like gray or silver or gold, some of those type ones just within the pitch. It's more colors that are going to be kind of where you would think of like turquoise, some of those type colors just within the pitch that are kind of just more within the secondary type range, but still relatively within the primary type sense. It's a good aspect to be able to have some of those type tones just within the pitch behind it. It has where Killer Mike this probably pushes him more to the forefront than probably what was realized at the time, but then just the snag thing about this product, just the fact that it was tough to track down. So basically the only three songs I don't recommend off this product here would just be God in the Building 2, American Dream, and Follow Your Dreams. Basically, all three of these are just kind of more personable type ones that just the aspect behind it just slows down the tempo within an aspect that they just feel a little bit more thought-provoking in a sense that just doesn't have like the general pizzazz. Like, I think Killer Mike was more aiming for like Tupac and Eminem type vibes just within the pitch, just something of just trying to have the tone of just switching it up where it's not just strictly just turn up type moments, but within the aspect it just kind of felt like he nailed those particular vibes a little bit better on Pledge Allegiance 2 from 2008. I think he did have songs like that on there, but that was just a little bit more rambunctious type product and also had the pizzazz like in Election Year, some of those type tones. But this particular album, just when it slows it down just within the tone, these just felt like more ones that just kind of felt a little bit more just snagged within the aspect behind it. Most of these songs on here hit pretty heavily, so an immediate one, if you do like a lot of the social kind of casual glamour, one of the best songs out this particular album to go for that continues, that would be Animal with Gucci Mane. It's like a vintage kind of early 2010s mixtape snarl to kind of get here. This is like routine for Gucci Mane and a good look for Killer Mike, I'd have to say, within that tone. Just some festive kind of weekend snaz. So it's just the same type of appeal that Gucci Mane was kind of doing throughout 2010, some of those type fares just within the pitch behind it. Continued aspects just with some of that. Real nice pizzazz and just typical kind of mixtape beastliness just within the tone. Players Lullaby is a nice one. Now this has Twista on here and also a cat named Rock D, the legend, who I don't know who that is, but he's on here a couple times. I think he's like the hook artist, but this is like a glaze. Players Lullaby is like a glaze kind of light-licked, late-day cruise around, I'd have to say, within that tone. Just some basic mellow errands, I'd have to say, just bills pay kind of routine hop. Songs like some basic kind of mellow errands, just kind of bills pay kind of routine hop to kind of get within that sense as far as those pitch kind of have with it. Just a good aspect just within the fare. Just reminds me of something that like Outkast would kind of do back in the 90s, like the ATLiens and playalistic albums as far as those pitch kind of just within the aspect. I mean, just keep in mind that he is kind of an affiliate, a deep affiliate of Outkast within those tones. So it's just the aspect of just getting some of those retrospect type ones just within those tones. Good aspect. And then Swimming is a nice one just within that same tone. So both Players Lullaby and Swimming are just those tones for just taking it back to Southern playalistic from 94 and some of those type pitches. It's like a sleepy and vintage kind of UGK and Outkast lack music kind of get here. Definite smoke fest and just like playalistic from 94, like I was saying, just hotbox the whip and some good vibing kind of have within that sense. So just some good cruise around, just the pitch behind it, good homies type music, just some ones that kind of appreciate the summer glaze, just pitches like that, just get some Popeye, some of that type fare, just munching in the car, some of those type tones of just enjoying summer heat and just overall frolic just in the tone, just some more cruise around type sense. Good type tone. Both those hit pretty heavily. There's also some throwback to like the mid 2000s mixtape days. So a couple of these on here, like That's Life 2 is just like mid 2000s kind of DJ drama mixtape days that I have to say here is like a starry kind of city hop, just kind of routine errands and like a thoughtful tip as far as those pitches can happen. So it's just good aspect for some of these type of ones here. This really takes it back to 2003, just like those ones that Jeezy and Lil Wayne and some of those type folks who kind of do off of like Dedication and Can't Ban the Snowman, some of those type pitches. I'd say the same aspect there. Same thing with So Glorious, I'd have to say. Now this was a song that was real tough to track down. The only way I was able to listen to this song was just the live edition where Killer Mike performed this song live, but the concept is this kind of aspect is just kind of in question as to why this particular album is just not available as full bound. I'd have to say within time. I mean, you can still purchase it within a relative sense, but like I said, it's just more within a relative expensive type product, just on Amazon, eBay, some of those type places. But So Glorious, from what I was able to see, is not on Spotify. It's not really on YouTube unless it's just the live version. So that's the aspect behind it. But from what I heard of the song, listening to the live song is pretty good. This takes it back to Jay-Z kind of blueprint days that I'd say here in DJ drama tapes. Definitely, it's like a stellar grind song I had to say, and some in motion fun to kind of have. So it's just the aspect, just on the grind pitches like that, just that standard fare, just air and running, some of that type goodness, just within the concept, just once again, this feels like 2005, 2006, good type tone for that. And then Everything Holds You Down is a nice one. That's a nice lady song here to kind of get this one. It switches up the tone just within the pitch. It's like a dreary kind of after worship balm to kind of get within that sense. It's a smooth bay gem to kind of get for routine malaise, and now it's just within the pitch behind it. So it's just kind of Tuesday dredge type music, not quite as forlorn with it, but just the relative just dredge, just like, yeah, today was a long day, kind of pissed me off a bit, or just ruffled my feathers a bit, but just the concept of getting home to base and pitches like that, just the standard fare, just that 5:15 kind of, what am I going to do, figure some stuff out, get some food, just standard simple errands just in the aspect, but just basically dreary kind of wind down within the tone. It's just good aspect. It really has the vibe just within that particular pitch. It just nails those particular vibes. So yeah, this album gets an 8.75 out of 10. The social score I'll probably give like a 9.25 though out of 10, because I feel like there's a lot of gems on here. It has the cruise around type bops, some hot box to whip type bops on here, some makeshift songs like everything holds you down, some ones like that, some other type ones like some good night venue type songs, just some good pitches of like some day drinking type songs, just some of that type fare, just some big city type songs just within the pitch. It has Thursday music, Monday music, just within some of those type fares. It even has some personal songs on here if you need some of those type ones. Just in the, and some of these songs like, you know, American Dream is almost like a DJ drama mixtape type one, but I just didn't really like the aspect of that one going a cappella about a little bit less than half the song towards the end of it, but it's just kind of within tone. Just felt more of like an interlude type song more than a full bound song. That one's kind of like pseudo, kind of like a DJ drama mixtape type one. But some of those type ones, like Follow Your Dreams, are just some personal type ones, just an aspect that didn't hold it. But enough of this is pretty balanced. So you do get a pretty packaged type album, just in the sense Killer Mike was really making a grab to get some commercial spotlight and just taking the aspects of some trendy type things and then wielding them pretty properly just in the tone. The execution is really high on this project. The social pizzazz, he has the right guests on here. Gucci Mane and Jeezy really help things out. T.I. helps things out. Some of these other folks like Twista help things out. Rock D the Legend does some good particular jobs on here. So it just has a good sense of just some affability, just a real dynamite type project, and just a good look for like a kind of seldom type time around those times. I mean, the first half of 2011 didn't have as much blitzing type stuff for like the full bound and kind of the first half of 2011 didn't have as much full bound kind of appeal with like the stuff that was coming out. It kind of felt like that was a little bit quieter, at least album wise. With mixtapes, there were hit after hit after hit, obviously within those tones. But in terms of like the first half, the first 6 months of 2011 was just a little bit quieter within the tone. Just trying to think of like, I mean, you had Wiz Khalifa, you had Big Sean, but in terms of like typical kind of southern hip hop, like something, there wasn't Ludacris around this time. T.I. was in prison. Gucci Mane had, I guess he did drop like the Return of Mr. Zone 6, but it was just kind of more, it was just kind of the tides were kind of shifting, but Killer Mike just keeps it in like a relative kind of aspect of like late 2000s and mid 2000s kind of southern hip hop. Just a good trend to kind of go with the conduit of how things were changing, but then just wield it properly to not be outdated. So it's a good type tone for being able to do those things. It's 9.25 social. In terms of the future, like Killer Mike has dropped an album as recent as like August of 2024. That's his most recent one, and he's only dropped 2 albums since 2012 as far as those pitches can happen. But he does have like the Run the Jewels projects, and he does have a series of mixtapes I'm going to get to. So I'm going to get to some more of these type products. I have more Killer Mike down the road that's particularly happening, but just from the aspect, this is like damn near a classic. If it just probably had like one more song, I'd probably say that this would be like a virtual classic, pretty close to being like a 9.5 out of 10. It's an 8.75, but just one more song would have just shifted it to damn near a classic. To be honest, but this is another victory for Killer Mike. Just some good aspects here.